morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm your host, Rodney McGilvery. This is Ancient Mysteries Revisited on Welt 95.7 FM in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Coming to you every Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also streaming at www.acpl.info/welt. And tonight we got our first edition of Theater After Midnight with Chuck Lauer and myself. And we'll start out though with a small portion of Freemasonic news. Go ahead, Chuck.
Well, welcome, and metaphysics. Okay, here's a piece of shocking news, and again, congratulations on your getting your 32nd degree, and that will play out in the Scottish Rite, Rodney, very shortly. Very, very important news. Those of you that are astrologers across the world, and let me tell you, my partner was an astrologer for 4 years. Planets don't lie. It should be on a t-shirt or bumper sticker. People do. So here's a big piece of information coming right at you. The planets Saturn and Pluto will be what's called 1 degree apart. That's really, really close, which means there will be a ton of energy from both those planets. Look, you can look up online what Pluto and Saturn represents. But basically, it's digging everything up from the bottom that's been hidden for years and years and years. So just remember this: in government, society, politics, you name it, it's going to happen. When does this happen, ladies and gentlemen, and Masonic brothers around the world? It happens 2020, starting in January.
So that's just right around the corner.
And guess what's happening in politics in 2020? We're having big elections in the United States. So these people that try to hide stuff will not be able to hide stuff. Remember, we're talking vibrations of the planets. Astrology has been around for thousands and thousands of years, and it'll be here long after we leave. Is it farce, fiction, or reality? Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, my first partner was a professional astrologer, though she would never admit to it. She was never wrong, and she did her astrology in her head before computers came in, and then did your chart. I strongly recommend anybody that wants a life path, wants to understand who and what they are, find yourself a certified professional astrologer, have a life chart done. It's going to run maybe $150, $200 some dollars, but it's a roadmap, ladies and gentlemen, and you will follow it the rest of your life. Now, you can buy it, you can get it, he can explain it to you, and then you put it on the shelf and forget about it. I was told, I told you before, as a young man, I had my chart done at Camp Chesterfield by a professional astrologer in Chesterfield, Indiana, 30 years ago. And she laughed and said, your chart says, as a young man, you will be an old man and help people, which I did in college, in high school, and they called me Uncle Charlie. And as an old man, you will be a young man and go out with a younger woman, which is what's happening to me today. And I put that up on the shelf and forgot about it. So again, these things play out. But for us today, 2020, I would be very careful and stay out of the fray when the crap hits the fan, whatever it's going to be. Remember the Bible story? Oh, and Rodney, grab your Bible quick on that one section I want you to go over shortly. Neither go to the left nor the right. And what that means is stay your course with your family, with your job, and please, please stay out of the fray when it happens. Now, Rodney found something as a young Mason that's very interesting. Tell them where you found it at.
The Holy Bible.
Well, yeah.
In 2 Chronicles chapter 2.
Verse started.
Well, it starts with verse 1 through...
That's okay.
Well, just the whole entire...
All right, go ahead. Read what you found.
Well, it discusses Solomon preparing the building of his temple, which most people know that the analogy of Freemasonry is building...
Of Solomon's temple.
Well, right, yeah. Or building yourself.
Yes.
As living stone, which is the temple of
But
Solomon.
read out of there what it says exactly.
In 2 Chronicles chapter 2,
for people that follow the Bible,
verse 12, this is from King Hiram of Tyre to King Solomon himself. He's saying, "So now I am sending Hiram Abi, a skilled man endowed with understanding, who is the son of a woman from the daughters of Dan, and whose father was a man of Tyre, a man skilled to work in gold and silver, bronze and iron, stone and wood, and purple and blue, fine linen and crimson, and to engrave all kinds of engraving, and who can execute any design given to him. He will work with your skilled men with the skilled men of my lord David your father. Now let my lord send to his servants the wheat and barley, the oil and wine he has promised."
Now, with that last part, let's hit that first. If you look at the picture of George Washington laying the cornerstone at the Capitol in the United States of America, before it was the United States, he uses oil, corn, and wine. And those are the three ingredients that are put on a cornerstone in all rituals of the Masons today, representation of what's right out of the Bible.
Very true, and I've seen like the rededication of the cornerstone in Washington, D.C., and they have the D.C. Freemasons. Well, they probably invite brothers from all over the world,
right.
But they do a big ceremony, and it goes back to that moment when George Washington, or President George Washington, laid the cornerstone in D.C. utilizing
foiled
those
all
implements.
three of those on there.
And you could go on YouTube and watch these rededication ceremonies, and you can watch them bring out those implements and do it.
And
all
the thing
like
is, people around us always complain that the Masons are not Christian in orientation. No, they're pre-Christian and Christian, a number of them. And here it is the ritual that's actually used with the Masons right out of the Bible.
Right.
And Rodney found it in Corinthians. So, ladies and gentlemen. Chronicles, excuse me. Right there is the truth of the matter laid out. Now, the little side note that few people understand is when they say corn, corn has a different meaning here than it does in Europe and England. Corn in England means grain, not just what we call in America corn. So think about that when rituals are done. What does the word actually... I just found that out about a year ago when someone was giving a lecture. So there's very interesting things. Never assume you know what you know. There's always another story behind that. So Rodney, thank you very much. But ladies and gentlemen, please, please keep an eye out for the coming of Saturn and Pluto 1 degree apart in 2020.
And I think, Chuck, that this goes along with the new age of Aquarius that we entered in 2012. The whole world was freaking out, and they were scared that the end of the world is happening due to the Mayan calendar coming to an end. But those that are familiar with astrology know that it's the end of the age, and the coming age currently was the age of Aquarius, which is we're entering now. And according to the age of Aquarius, it's about bringing about changes which will bring about all the lies of the world and all the
things that have been covered up.
Yeah, it'll uncover everything that's being hidden.
And the point is for people out there and brother Masons around the world that hear this, you're not to be scared. You're not to point fingers. You're to deal with it in the way you find fit to deal with it and move on. So there will be discoveries made too.
Right.
I just picked up.
Well, I guess one point too of bringing the knowledge out is to give people a little bit of comfort to it.
Yes.
Maybe freaking out on the inside because who knows? It could still lead to the end of society as we know it.
Right.
Because when you bring about all these hidden secrets or all these lies that the rulers of the world are telling, it's going to cause a major disruption of society.
Yes, and people are going to have to change their consciousness to bigger and better. The other thing that's happening along the way, and we'll talk about this in a second here, on the book section, I picked up another book called The Blood of Avalon, The Secret History of the Grail Dynasty from King Arthur to Prince William. Now, The big thing in here, which we'll talk about at a later date in more depth, is that the story of King Arthur did not take place in Britain proper, but in Wales. And these two historians can prove it. There were two Arthurs. There was an earlier one, and there was one in the 6th and 7th century. So we'll talk about that more lately. But the places, the people in Britain will appreciate this in Europe, is there's a place in the Vale of Avalon called Trefran, Trefran, Brian the Blessed, and above it a church of St. Illid, Illid, which is the Welsh name for Joseph of Arimathea. He was a bishop, so there's a church dedicated to him there. Now, further up the line is the Church of Peter on the Mountain. I can't even begin to say that name in Welsh, but the Welsh people will know this, Fynydd. It's the burial place of King Arthur, they say. So keep that in mind. It is not Glastonbury. And there's a big museum there, and there's nice things. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying this book came out in '88. So the point is, the other one that's very interesting is the Coity Castle, Coety, is the Church of St. Mary. So in other words, people, there's lots of places to go, things to see, people to talk to. I'll look into that more and more. But that book is by Adrian Gilbert, Gibert, called The Blood of Avalon. You can buy it new or used. I picked that up, and I will take some things out of there. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the near future, keep your eyes open. And remember, two of the quick other events that are going to happen, then we'll get into the storylines here, which I really want to get into, is 2021 in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I don't have the dates yet, but we'll be out there in the Masonic webpage. The brothers can look. Will be the State Scottish Rite State Convention and Seminar in Fort Wayne, Indiana. A nice small town to be able to get around in. Lots of great things to see. Parks, possibly steam engines will be here by then. Possibly you've got the Botanical Garden, the Children's Zoo. Lots of great things. Right north, 8 miles, is Grayville, Indiana, with a very excellent Catalpatry Shops Metaphysical Center. Deeper subject matter, and you get to see Mennonite, Amish with their horses and buggies, antique stores, fudge shops. They just opened a new seafood restaurant there, very high class. And also remember that these events, and up north of that is Little Spencerville, Indiana, with a fine covered bridge, about another 10 miles. And I forgot the big one last time is Auburn, Indiana. You say, what's in Auburn? Well, all the car buffs around the world, it's called the ACDC yearly meeting, they bring in the giant old Auburn cord Duesenbergs worth over $1 million. Now, they have a big museum there. You can go any time of the year. If you're in this way, please stop by, see Rodney and me. We'll go out to eat. You can run up and see the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Museum.
There's another museum up there. It's not the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Museum, but there's another one close by in Auburn.
Yes.
I don't know what it's called, but our good friend Steve said that he is a long-running member of that museum.
There are, I didn't get into it, but you're right. There's actually 5 of them now.
Okay.
They go from covered wagons to cars to truck museum, and they're all around the little city of Auburn, Indiana. But if you go on their webpage, they've got a webpage, you can buy 1 ticket and cover all 5 museums.
Okay.
So it's very, and they got excellent restaurants up there too, so you can have a great day up there.
I wonder how many people we know that have cars over there, because I noticed this past year when they had the Three Rivers Festival downtown, they actually had a Freemasonic car show.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Wow.
I would have went, but I had prior engagements, but I know when I drove past it, it was completely packed full of cars.
Wow.
And I think you had to be a Freemason to enter your car into that show. So I wonder how many people that we know have their own personal cars in these museums.
Well, that could be. I don't have a clue, but that would be fascinating to find out. So remember, 2020 with the planets Saturn and Pluto, 2021. Start telling your brothers out there, and if you want to take a holiday, come to Midwest America, make it 2021 and come to the big Scottish Rite at the Shrine Building in Fort Wayne, Indiana, across from the Coliseum. You can't miss that building. There's tons
there's more
of
corn.
right.
There's more than corn in
Yeah,
Indiana.
that is very good. I'm going to use that. There's more than corn in Indiana.
There's corn, wine, and oil.
That's good, Rodney. That is, and we will have to use that again. But just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. So keep that up. So, in the near future, we are coming up on to do the storylines. Now, I will do 2 or 3 storylines and outline them. Now, here's what I'd like you to do. If you find something interested in these storylines, please come back on the webpage or email. Let us know what you like about it, what your interests are. Now, in these storylines, you will hear similarities with numbers, description, and symbols. The Masonic brothers will know what they are. If you're not a Mason but really interested, pick them out, what you are interested in the storyline, tell us, and we'll see if we can address these issues to you. But go ahead, Rodney.
I was going to say, that's pretty good for our news. That'll wrap up our news portion. Let's go right into our first book in the series, Theater After Midnight. Go ahead, Chuck, give the title and go right into the story. Oh, give our little disclaimer, too.
All right. This will be from Theater After Midnight, Nexus Point Productions. The first series, I will read 2 or 3 texts or chapters from it, very short, so you aren't going to listen forever and ever.
And there's a small disclaimer, though.
Yes, called South Wayne, Indiana, and the Templars. These stories are comprised of myth, fact, and fiction with Masonic overtones. Chapter 1. Now remember, these are stories, and they're weaving in and out of Masonic lore. So anything you find in here interesting, let us know. And this is an outline. My name is Charles Albert Thompson, with a P. I am 74 years old. My family is from South Wayne, Indiana, Allen County, over 9 generations. On my mother's side, classes, we were from Miami Indians. Her name was Clara. And my father's name was Charles Lauer Sr. They took the Miami Indians out of here many years ago on canal boats to Oklahoma by the American Army, the Bluecoats. And they were dumped off to live there or die by white descendants of General Anthony Wayne. Now remember, General Anthony Wayne was put out in this area by General George Washington. He got rid of him by doing that. He was from the East Coast. General George Washington was a Masonic brother and sent the egotistical little fart out here to get rid of him. Now, it's not to put the man down, but George Washington, after the Revolutionary War, had to process certain areas. Remember, Fort Wayne was the farthest eastern point on the northeastern United America back then, as colonies, and George sent troops out here to quote-unquote civilize the society away from the savages. Now, as we move on here, there is a statue downtown, which you can see, of General Anthony Wayne. And my mother, Clara, as a child, was placed under his statue to play at 3 years of age across the street from her Aunt Helen's, as she watched her working at the local diner as a waitress. Now, this story will weave into the Masonic lore, so hang in there, boys and girls. 2 blocks over on a side street is the basic grave of the last Miami War Chief, Little Turtle, that few people have seen or care about. The North Wayne white people are a bunch of shops and upper crust. I come from the poor Catholic parish of St. Joe in Brooklyn Avenue, near what was called Honky Town, and the old GE factory, which is still there, on Taylor Street, where my dad Charlie worked for 50 years of his life. A big shot Italian came in from the east and changed everything. Dad was let out with a $10 GE plastic radio and his name on it. On a Friday night, he came home, handed it over to me, goes to his office and shuts the door. Listens to the Cubs baseball game. Cubs is big in the Midwest here in Indiana. That early morning, he brought 2 sheets on Friday of a white cake for he knew he was leaving for the men that worked for him. And he passed out pieces at lunchtime. Dad left early and brought me and Mom lots of leftover cake. I was very happy about it. Of course, my father wasn't. There was just 3 of us in the household, all 3 very independent. My mother, Clara, ran the post office and was a postmistress in those days at the old Lehman Sisters bookstore. And I got a lot of my books at the Lehman Sisters bookstore. Very beautiful, like a place like right out of Harry Potter. I loved the place. I am dyslexic and I went to the old Central Catholic High School. At 16 years of age, I received my driver's license. Dad threw me the car keys. You drive, he said. I got the look. And from then on, I drove a new 1957 Chevy red and white Bel Air hardtop. Today, that car, ladies and gentlemen, is worth about $1 million. My dad purchased it for $2,395.45, which was a lot of money back then, plus tax. I drove my dad to General Electric first, dropped off my mother at the bookstore, and I left the car at the parking lot by my high school, which I then went to early band practice. This is background information for what's coming, ladies and gentlemen. We all 3 played by unspoken rules. There was food, clothing. I got good books. I studied symbolism a lot. 4 years was a steady rhythm, strictly followed. Dogs, mostly, a few cats later on in my life, and a couple of kittens. I learned quite a bit about female basic psychology from the female cats. Next came St. Francis College, not the university then. Beautiful campus. If you're in Fort Wayne, please stop by and see that. You will love it. Small. It's a nice campus, rich with history, and under strict watch. Back then, black-robed nuns that took their toll on many a young student. You were not to mess around. I was just there after it became co-educational 2 years earlier. I was in chocolate heaven then. I was surrounded by women in my class, and there was approximately 30 women to 1 man. The foreign women were more sophisticated than the American ladies, their counterparts. They got permission for Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners and New Year's party under the auspices of the hardcore-driven nuns at the girls' dormitory. Now, I was not allowed in those days, you're talking 40 years ago, you were not permitted in the girls' dormitory. You could go to the main desk. If you were taking a woman out on the date, you waited there, they stared at you, and you took the woman out. So that was the old-fashioned rules. Back then, I took the women shopping because they had no cars. They went to school 3.5 straight years and left. That was it. I was trusted. I was a good boy by the nuns and knew my place. It was a great deal of fun dealing with these young ladies, and I took a lot of cold showers. There was no hanky-panky. All the women had rich sources, and they came from countries where they were already engaged to be married when they went back home. So this was a preset deal. There were strict rules to follow, and again, unspoken. The major shopping exposition in my sophomore year, I found out Carl Jung's psychology in college, and the young girls, and then the Knights Templars. So now it starts to get interesting. Years followed of Hermetic training in astrology, astronomy, and alchemy. When you hear that, it's the 3 A's of Hermetic art. Becoming later a priest, and today a 32-degree Rite Mason and a Knights Templar priest in 9th degree. On a side street in South Wayne, Indiana, stands a massive ancient oak tree, over 200 years old, and on a hill, a stone round building called the chapel, by an old cemetery, with a bureau and very red candles. And on St. John's Day there is a drum and fife corps, which comes out to play, and Mass is held. I bring out the family flag by Edwin de Barris, who was in the day the third Grand Master of the Priory of Zion and became a Capuchin priest later on. And in turn, I have communion for the Templars at dawn. It's also a reference back, and then we went afterwards to Joe's Bar and Grill, which we still do today. I hold no major positions in the Templars. My world is esoteric arts of numbers and symbols. And about 15 to 20% of us, ladies and gentlemen, are interested in this rather than what they call working their way through the line. In the far corner of the cemetery stands two lonely figures with expensive haircuts, bayberry raincoats, and they carry guns. They are watching me during the service. They motion to the head of the Templars, and he brings me over to them. No one questions or asks anything. They move me to a massive black limousine and offer me inside a drink of whiskey, and the V10 engine hums. They hand me two faded, copied sheets from a locked briefcase on the arm of a man with heavy tattoos, and these are Marine. They part the pages and point at them, and they say to me, these are the two archons of the universe. Can you decipher, or the character in this story rather than me, since I wrote this, the symbols and the words, Charles? It would be a great help to us. It might hit off a coming world war. Charles says then, sweat run down his back and his neck, and he is looking at the dark archons of the universe. And Dr. Carl Jung writes before the beginning of time, say one word. And I say, yes, I will help you. This is excellent, Charles. You have 2 weeks to find out the meanings of these manuscripts. A gold plate key unlocks the Moroccan leather valise. It is placed in my lap, and against which I hear the lock unfold. And I hear again in my ear the archon say, you have 2 weeks, brother. This is a cold person, and he said it is life or death. The door swings open automatically. I drink the last of my whiskey, and with Big Patrick, my commander, by my side, the black limousine silently slithers away. Pat stares me in the face, and he says quietly, as he does, Chuck, what? Don't fuck this up. I am going to be Grand Commander of the York Rite, and I won it by your birthday, April 1st. I go, yes, sir. So again, if you would, gentlemen, ladies, would understand this man, if you would see him, he's a very sweet man. In the side of the valise is bound red books of Adam's an ancient book, a leather packet of $100 bills. And there is a threat in the letter to kill my dad, 2 cats, a pet turtle named Herbie, and a 40-year-old gray mule that I know named Salt. So nothing comes without a price, ladies and gentlemen. I go back to the road, check the place where the red book came from, and move on. The outline figure appears again. She is 6'5", long red hair, green leather red high heels are red, and green eyes. Hello, Charles. How's it going for you? I can't believe this. Sign, and I ask her, I am scheduled 6 ways from Sunday to be killed. Who are you? She looks at me, extends her hand, and says, my name is Carla. I'm sort of your new bodyguard on Earth. I used to be in dark ops with Blackwater. I was shot by a sniper in the back of the head, and now the boys upstairs think you need help. As a Mason, they sent me to protect you. You have a strong tendency to screw things up, Charlie. And so here I am. sent for your safety and as your buddy, sort of a watchdog. And she goes bow wow, sticks her tongue out and pants, and I don't think it's a damn bit funny. I get mad and I throw the red book into the valise and walk away. And she says, "Don't go too far, Charles." Now, you don't have to get mad at me. You should have a sense of humor. You are a dyslexic fuck up. Your whole life, two big archons have been watching over you, knowing your family bloodline from South Wayne, Indiana. And I am here to help you. Remember that. You've got to have a sense of humor. You've got to keep a cool head. And you've got to pay attention to what's been asked of you. From the Knights Templars, Charlie. It's very important to the world. America and Little South Wayne, where? Nobody knows where this place is, and nobody really cares. But for some strange reason, this area is going to be very, very important in the near future. Now, we are looking at, I say, something very unusual, not the remainder of what we know is happening. On St. John's Day in the Round Temple, there is a spring St. John's Day. This is with the equinoxes. There is a fall or winter St. John's Day on December 27th. A full-fledged Christmas Mass and calling down on the altar God to consecrate the bread and wine transformed through spiritual alchemy into the physical form of Jesus the Christ. This is called in alchemy transmutation. Is a powerful mystical experience. It happened to King Arthur in mythology stories and in the Grail manifestation. Also in the Christian church, Padre Pio, a saint, is manifesting transmutation and being in two places at once. Today it's Father Solanus Casey that's up for sainthood that can also do this. And by the way, his place, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned, is in Huntington, Indiana Priory, where he was for a number of years. And you can go there and see his cell. It's been totally redone. It is a beautiful, very small monastery and a great place to pray.
My parents actually live maybe a block from there.
They do?
Yeah.
Well, it's a nice ground to go walk. I'll take you over there. Third Saturday of the month, ladies and gentlemen, they have Mass at 1 o'clock. Anybody can go. A lot of sick people go to that, but I go. First Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m., they have a Father Solanus Casey place where they meet. It appears 1 hour out of history, every century in three-dimensional reality. As a Templar sharing this, the Christ consciousness is in our flesh, brings us closer to immortality in our lifetime. Also, Charles Fillmore in Unity, teaching and philosophy, teaches that we are immortal. And he did that in the 1890s. We take on too many things of this world that affects our immune system, our consciousness, and our spirituality. This is what limits our lifetime. Understanding invisible laws will become natural. We will realize and use as Templars, York Rite, Scottish Rite, and Masons, the unification of body, soul, and spirit. This sacred process, or unified, is created around us, the world and across the universe, in untold dimension by Knights Templar priests. The 7 archons of the universe cannot stop this from happening. I smile to myself and climb back into the Lamborghini. So in this case, I'm driving a Lamborghini. I love this. Or this character is. My name spells out cat, K-A-T, I say. I do have 9 lives to work with someone from hell or high water, and I can dance with the devil in the pale moonlight. I hear my mother, Clara, say softly in my ear, "Be careful, Charles. Be careful and tread lightly." The Knights Templars, through sacred rituals of their own, priests, are known subconsciously, or as Dr. Carl Jung would say, unconsciously, are moving about hour to hour, day by day, into the 4th dimension. Most of the knights go about their daily routines and sense something major is going to unfold. The time of caring, they will wake up with their sword, shield, and cross, and in defense of their systems will honor this in the entire world. Now, is this going to happen realistically or symbolically, ladies and gentlemen? It's going to happen one way or the other. The early sports car picks up speed to about 150 as I ask divine providence for guidance. Something appears beside me, and it's Carla again. Boy, Charlie, you sure know how to impress a girl. This machine is a lot faster than your old warhorse. The old warhorse she met during the Crusades. Come on, Reverend Charles, do you actually think I was going to let you sneak off? Something like that, Carla. Realize that now I am an angel of the Lord Almighty from above. I am everywhere, and well, I'm going to protect you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if that happened to you, you would think twice about someone talking to you like that. Well, let us look at Carla. Cut briefly, a bragging angel, catching a ride with a bent-up old-fashioned Templar priest in his brand-new stolen car. And this is Carla talking. Just then, the state police car screams into view, and I pull over. Carla says, "You're a mean priest, Charlie, and you stole a car." The perfect standout. Here I sat with a police officer coming up beside me. I rolled down the window in the perfect uniform, the perfect gun, and gray hair. And he says, well, 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 if it isn't my favorite priest in the whole wide world, Reverend Charles Albert Thompson. Well, Lieutenant Commander Ramey Buzzkirk, is this the family or what? I just feel fine, Padre. And you know what? I need to see your license, registration, and insurance plates. Even though he's a cop and knows my family, he has to go by the rules. I am late for supper with my father, and my mother will kill me. And by the way, would you care to join us, Father? Famous Meatloaf by Mabel, my wife, and she would like to see you. So, the Commander Buzzkirk stands back, his squared shoulders, he goes back to the car, writes me a ticket, comes back, and looks at my license plate and Carla. I think you need to meet my sister Melba, my wife. She used to be a real nun, and now she has 3 mean kids and a cat named Lucky with a cut-off tail and will bite you. So the state trooper, Buzzkirk, smiles, returns my license with a ticket for $350. I tried my best, Father, to trim it back a bit, but you know how it is. Even though I'm a brother, you have to pay the piper. Yes, I understand. And thank you for your assistance, officer. So, as I open the full glove box to put back the ticket in there, my old 6-shooter falls out on the floor between Carla's red leather high heels. She stares at it and looks at me. Things change radically. In the distance, a black helicopter is hovering over our head. The cop loosens his Glock sidearm, and Carla checks the chamber and spins my gun on the floor. I follow the law of the policeman, and I follow him to his house for supper, and we are not bothered. Carla will meet, luckily, on the front step, growing and hissing, Lucky the black cat. He will run across and jam his fingers into my arm and glare at Carla. Now, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I do love meatloaf. In the kitchen, Carla offers to help Melba. She is cutting up tomatoes for the salads and accidentally, on purpose, cuts Carla's hand, and Carla does not bleed. The black helicopter circles above. Sorry about that, Carla. I see you're not human either. And please pass the salt. Let me say you're an angel to watch over my dear bumbling brother Charles. Yes, Charles. My dad's nickname 3 generations later is Charles Albert, and it gets complicated at the dinner table. You look very familiar, Carla. I would say a nun, a Franciscan order. Now this is Melba talking to Carla. Melba points with a big knife at Carla, and she says, shut up. Always looking on the downside. I am from the poor handmaids of Clara. Carla pushes away the knife from her. You are correct, over 100 years ago. This is my chance to do penance. I can tell with Charles here that he knows what's going on. Nobody parts. Down there, he is such a sucker for a pretty redhead like you. Well, you will please have to stop worrying about that. I can take care of myself and my brother if it is so needed. Now, Melba isn't the type that preaches and my brother digs further into his food, my brother-in-law. Melba does not smoke and pushes the beautiful salad toward me. May I ask why you quit being a nun, Melba? Well, you see, it starts with an angel. A big-mouthed nun like you ticked me off in the kitchen, sliced off her ear by accident, sort of like the famous painter Van Gogh, and I am not nuts, you understand. Then they let me go, and I married, became a cook, and that's how I started being here. I still look after my brother Charles. He loves my homemade cooking and cares a lot about me and the children. The 2 guys are watching the Cubs baseball game now, drinking Miller's Light and using snuff. Melba says, let's go, gentlemen. Grub is served. Honey, can you please take the kids out with you? And Trooper Quimby steps out on the front porch, shoots off 2 rounds for them, and 3 teenagers came running into the house and stare at Carla. Lucky slinks under the table and growls, the black cat. This is my wonderful teenage creations, Carla. Paul, Larry, and Patricia. Kids, this is Carla visiting your Uncle Charlie. There is silence. Father Charles, will you please say grace? And life moves on. In the hills northeast of Fort Wayne lies Grable, Indiana. Another world yet to a few miles away. Very metaphysical. Lots of horses, Amish black buggies, just like Henry Ford's Model T car, one color, black. Ancient clothes, long beards, lovely women, healthy children, and natural healing practices. I have existed here for over 75 years. And after supper, I take Carla up and over a high hill to the secret lane and show her to the center. There is a complete silence. No birds, wind, anything. A giant, massive stillness. You can only hear the oars. I'm at the water's edge.
All right, that's the end of the first book that we have for Theater After Midnight, which was titled
South Wayne, Indiana and the Templars. This is chapter 2. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that stories are comprised of myth, fact, and fiction with a Masonic overlay. As we continue, Carla says to Charles, exactly where and when are we? And why did you bring me here? I can't see the shoreline. And she talks about not being able to see the shoreline. I give Carla this white pearl and she stares at it. She says, it's beautiful. She carefully takes it with her 2 fingers out of my palm and looks at it quizzically. It is as beautiful as you are, Carla. And now toss it into the lake, please. She says, it's priceless. This, Carla, is the pearl of great price, given to me by my mother as she died. Toss it, Carla. Carla takes the pearl in her hand and tosses it high into the air. It sails upward, stops suddenly, and dives straight down into the lake and makes a giant wave. And there is no noise. Carla says, what happens next, Charles? Everything has a price, Carla. Water, weight, and sea. Everything is still. The lake surface is as quiet as glass. And I point there, about 20 feet out from us in this little boat, comes up from the bottom of the lake more and more larger bubbles. The boat rocks back and forth, and all at once above the surface of the water sticks a woman's arm. She is known as the Lady of the Lake. The hand raising high from the lake, in her hand is a sword. Now, we know this sword as Excalibur. Step out of the boat, Carla, and retrieve the sword, Excalibur, from King Arthur's realm. Carla looks at me and says, what? Really, Charles? Now, Carla, or by your doubt, you will change history, look at the far side. And there stands Merlin with a long white beard on the far shore, a golden scythe in his hand, and he raises it toward us. He knew in his time, the Templars, by another name, they were called the White Brotherhood. I take it you know him, and on the side are some Templars on horses sitting watching us. I say, yes, Carla. Now, retrieve Excalibur now. It is, or it will destroy us. And if I drown, you can't. You are an angel. Remember, move. And so she steps out of the boat, walks onto the water, and retrieves the sword. There is a strange humming that grows and grows till she reaches the sword and takes it. The long arm and hand disappear under the lake's surface again. And I say to her, Carla, bring it to me, please. Carla yells back at me, don't push me around, Charles. This is not real at all. And I say to her, neither are you or this lake. But I believe in both of you. And that's something to remember, ladies and gentlemen. Some things you see, you're going to believe in, whether it's there or not. You know it innately. Thank you for the confidence, Sir Knight Charles. And Carla gets back in the boat and hands me the sword. We examine it together. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. The sword glows green. This is the sword of Excalibur. It hums on its own and is highly spiritual. Now, other organizations and cultures, I think including Great Britain, and the Welsh especially, have another name for this sword. But for us, it is still a magical sword, and we call it Excalibur. Everyone is gone, Charles. Where are we, says Carla. Outside of time and space, here where King Arthur lies in a glass coffin, waiting to be resurrected. I extend my open hands, palms up, to receive the sword. Carla says, my role is in this magical drama, Charles, and she hands the sword to me carefully. You have, my dear Carla, been the agent of love, wisdom, and change. Fascinating, Charles, Carla says. What about your mother, Clara, and her pearl at the bottom of the lake? Carla, this lake is bottomless. It will never be found. It served its purpose. It is a teardrop. She cried for me as she died. It turned into a pearl into my hand, and I know at a future time I was to use it magically. My mother, Clara Josephine Desparis, turned a transparent blue when she passed and looked into my eyes, and she was looking into the next world. My mother, Clara, said, do not worry about anything, Charles. It will all fade away. Her soul left the body and went back to Arles, France, from where we originated, in the 1600s with the Cathars, the family castle, She was a high priestess back then. She waits for my return. And ladies and gentlemen, that is spelled A-R-L-E-S, Arles, France. Carla says, in the sword, I said, a sacred talisman to show me the way, if I choose. Carla says, what about the Celtic priest and the 9 knights standing on the shoreline? Symbols, Carla, mystical pointing people pointing the way. Listen carefully, Carla. We both are at a very special place. I take her out with the sword and point into the heavens. Do you trust me totally? She says, my life and my heart are one. Yes. Hang on, Carla. Your wish is my command. Lightning touches the tip of the sword, and with a large crashing thunder, I say, thank you, Marlin. Carla turns around and looks toward the center. I feel something beating. I have a heart, a human heart. Yes, Carla, we are at the center or the nexus point of creation. I hand her a Gnostic pin and a mystical card. By the way, Rodney here has that Gnostic pin and that mystical card. We're eventually going to start a dinner group, and those of you that are sincerely interested in the future can join us for these dinners where we speak about Gnostic gospels and esoteric material. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're from.
Yeah, because these dinners can be streamed live.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
See, I'm from the old world like Merlin with parchment and pen. That would be nice to do that. Then we could have the other brothers and sisters join us for this. Because this goes beyond masonry, ladies and gentlemen. Mm-hmm. All right. Carla says, come on, Charlie. Can't we stay out here a little longer? And the gentleman says, I would like to, Carla, but Merlin is also the trickster, and I know you well enough to have to use your female gift in a few minutes behind those bushes on the shoreline. And I smile. I don't want you to wet yourself, young lady. And her face turns red as she blushes. Oh my God, really? I said you are taking on human qualities. And Carla travels a few yards. Yes, Carla, there is magic in this world of ours, but how you are truly treated as a woman of nature depends upon the way you act. And I laughed. She yells at me to be quiet. Yes, dear, I understand. I come to you. I see my sister Melba waving at us. I know she has a fresh made thick chocolate cake with hand covered with strawberries and vanilla ice cream. The kids will love to see this, Carla, and the sword. By the way, can you cook or bake, or is it going to be a one-way street? Carla looks at me. No, Charles, I can't cook, and you are the Templar Knight. No, I fight the bad guys and bring home dinner to skin and eat. I will never order pizza with green olives and chocolate, Carla says. Oh my God, and I laugh. What is so damn funny? Let me hold the big honking sword, Carla says, and laughs. Please don't hit me with the sword if I was you. I understand, Charles. You are my dearest friend, Carla, and you realize you are pregnant. You're nuts, Charles, and she walks away with the sword. And I say, I laugh and take Carla home. We smile at each other. And Carla says, oh, sure. Next, you'll say this is a virgin birth, and I am carrying the chocolate cake and ice cream. A dark helicopter circles above us, and by us, it is silent. Charles, there is a red dot on your chest. One sniper rifle shot probes my heart as I hit the ground. I leave my body and I think in my mind's eye, I am restored in the name of God my Father. I see the smile of Charles Fillmore holding my hand in severed pain. God is mind, mind is thought, I am thought. Everything goes to God. Remember this, ladies and gentlemen. That's something you can say in your sleep or when you wake. That's all you need to know. God is mind, mind is thought, I am thought. Melba yells to her husband, Ronnie. He grabs the long rifle away from the kids. They hit the dirt, and the cat and the dog run away. They return fire and hit one in the helicopter. It smokes and leaves. I set up on a lake with a nunnery, and I am led by a nun dressed in white robes to the Templar chapel, where sits the large coffin, again with Arthur inside, staring at Merlin. He looks at me and smiles. In the past, I can do right by you, Templar, but now should I do anything, Dispares? I look at him and say, I will live. And Merlin says, yes, I was not counting the heart damage. Will Arthur return? And he looks at me and smiles over at the coffin and says, in time. You see, when the gentleman was hit in the heart, he is now existing between time and space. He opens his eyes. It is early morning, 5 days later. I have extensive heart surgery. Carla is crying. Angels don't cry, I say. And Carla looks at me and says, screw you. And I catch my heart, and I found out that I've had surgery. I am not who you think, Charles. And we stare at each other, and she continues to cry. I tell her that I love her. I drink a glass of water, and I begin to feel the pain in the heart. And she tells me, don't mess up. I take a sip. And in comes the doctor with a young assistant by his side. Good morning, my brother Mason, the doctor says. I see you are a traveling man. Now, to the brother Masons, they know what this means. Yes, yes, I am a brother, and this is Dr. Washington, a special hand surgeon or heart surgeon that had been by, and he heard about your case and has come to help you, my dear boy. A big-time specialist also came in from London named Dr. Murthan. And Dr. Murthan stopped by during the surgery and helped us. It took us 18 hours to glue your heart back together. And he said he will be back one of these days. And here you are, up and better, and it's only been 5 days. Carla sits there with tears running down her face. You make God's nature works, I say. And Carla says, I am right, being human and pregnant, peering a lot, crying a lot. I am doing great. Yes, dear, I love you. A nurse gives me a morphine shot, and please go home, she says to Carla. I will take care of Father Charles. So, I go back in my dreams to the Apples Island. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Apples Island is also called Avalon. And today, believe it or not, a side humor on this is supposedly we have buried in Fort Wayne, Indiana, on a hillside behind the Coliseum, across from the sign, the shrine, a gentleman called Johnny Appleseed. And his grave is there, and every fall we have a Johnny Appleseed festival. Well, what most people don't know, Johnny Appleseed was a student in his day. They play him out as a bumbling idiot in the Walt Disney movie, which he was not. He was a student of Swedenborg, and so he was very literate. He came out here years earlier than and the Indians left him alone because they thought he was a crazy man, and planted apple trees. So about when they're 4 or 5 years old, the settlers would head west. He would then uproot them and sell them to the settlers to make money. And then he got his name, Johnny Appleseed. So, I see Merlin standing beside the tree holding an apple. He smiles at me. You know, Charlie, I am over 500 years old, and I love these apples, especially hot apple pie with vanilla ice cream. From your time, I have had it. It is great. I look at him, and Merlin also says, I know this woman with you is pregnant and will be your wife. And this will play out later, much later in the storyline as we move along, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for you to go back, Templar DeBar. And I open my eyes and I'm staring at Carla. So Carla says, you've decided to come back to us. I thought we had lost you. I have a strong feeling I am being investigated by some greater principle. And it's very interesting, Carla. So, there wasn't none a long time ago, and I answered her questions in my youth on my report card. And she said I got better grades. Yes, Sister Carla. Knock it off, Charlie. And where? And then Carla points to the Isle of Avalon. Ever since I was a child, Carla, I believed in what Merlin did. I believed in what Arthur did. Everybody else called them fairy tales. They are not fairy tales. Remember, myth can become fact, Carla. This is not the time nor the place for this about a history report. Remember, I am pregnant with your child, and I am really upset about this. As far as you're getting, it is better, and that's what I want you to do. I have to be near. Carla rushes past Melba, standing in the doorway with a plastic container of meatloaf. Melba says, I know she was knocked up, Charles. I could tell from the look in her face, and here is the meatloaf for you. Thank you, dear sister. Thank you. So, God will provide and everything will move along. Melba says, I want you to be quiet and please eat the food that I've brought. I have a baby coming through my sister-in-law, and this will be no surprise. I look at her and I say, will wonders never cease? And I finish the meatloaf. Slow down, Tiger. You are here a while, and there is enough meatloaf there for 3 people. It was very good, Melba, and I want to thank you. I ate all of it. I hope that was not all the meatloaf there was. I go back to my grade school in my mind and remember the times that I used to share that with the other children and my family. So, moving along, we have, please, Melba, bring some more tomorrow. Melba says, good God, I will. And the nun runs off, remembering, I ask you to marry me. You are going to do this after you get out of the hospital. Here comes, Melba says, snaringly, the pregnant virgin. And I look at her, and I now have pizza with chocolate, my favorite. Melba shakes her head and leaves. I smell meatloaf. Did you save me any? No, I did not, Carla. With the baby coming on the way, the mother needs nourishment. And I said, that's fine. I got shot in the heart by bad guys. While you're waiting, Charles, always remember the questions. Bad guys, evil ones, archons, they pass. And Carla looks me in the eye, face to face, and said, are you scared? I said, no, I am shot. It hurts, angry, and with the morphine, it will go away. I push the morphine button again, and before I know it, something happens. God's mind, my mind is thought, I am thought. Charles Fillmore Center, it happens again and plays out in my mind. The last thing I remember at Unity Center, Sister Kathy comes in the room. Dr. Merthen stopped by at 5 a.m. as I wake up, and he looked at your scar and has now left. He says, you're doing great, Charles, and he will stop and see you again. I said, hopefully tomorrow. I slip into a deep sleep and open my eyes, and besides me again at Avalon sits Merlin. Did you bring me some of your sister's meatloaf? Oh my God, Merlin, I said. The constant business with the meatloaf. And I call him Dr. Merthen, and he laughs. I love this, Charles, being able to walk in both worlds. Merlin is this 5th dimensional being and time. And Merlin says, yes, my brother, it is. Where is Arthur right now? He is in the Templar Chapel by the altar with 3 lovely angels and the Holy Grail. Will I be allowed to see it? I asked Merlin. See it? You will have Mass to conduct shortly for Arthur, the famous knight, the Round Table, and you will use the sacred chalice for Arthur at the communion exercise. You have to get robed now. The chapel bells rings. Is the Holy Grail a chalice? Merlin looks me straight in the eye and says, it is up to you, Arthur. It can be what you want it to be. Is it a grail? Is it a chalice? Is it a plate?
All right, that ends sections 1 and 2 of South Wayne, Indiana, and the Knights Templar. We're going to start book 2 now, which is Knights Templar Here and Now, episode 1.
Okay, ready. Ladies and gentlemen, these are stories that are comprised of myth, fact, and fiction with Masonic overtones. Section 1. My name is Reverend Charles Joseph de Barres. I am a Knights Templar priest living through this veil of illusion. Last week, the leaves started to turn bright, beautiful colors in Brown County, Indiana. I took a few days off away from the hectic grind and took out the 54 red and white Chevy Corvette for a leisurely trip to picturesque Nashville, Indiana, which is full of houses, fields of harvest corn, and perfect small towns of America with quaint villages to visit. Then the inline 6-cylinder engine sports 3 chrome carburetors that greedily suck in tremendous amounts of air in the engine. It purrs like a black female cat I knew named Ebony, who will rub against your leg with one tail and then reach out and bite your hand with the other and walk away. Now, Ebony remains a part of my life, and 18-year-old she reminds me of a stripper I once knew who left me in the same circumstances years ago. My sinuses are killing me with the top down on the beautiful convertible with this small black cloud overhead. Is it an omen of what's going to happen? I don't know. I stop off at the Bean Blossom Dinner Shop for a fresh piece of homemade sugar cream pie, an Indiana famous object, and a boiling cup of black coffee. Gladys, the legendary waitress, winks at me and invites me back for a thick beef stew supper and a surprise dessert. I kiss her lovely fingers and with a large rock diamond on them, tip her a $50 bill and tell her I will return very soon. I tell Gladys I will come back and enjoy the beef stew with her, then special dessert. Cranking over the engine, it purrs like the cat and moves out quietly. I look up at the black cloud is still over my head. Halloween is near, and I do pay attention to omens. I shoot down the 2-lane road, and the broken, crooked leaves sail up around me in the old car, and we move out at approximately 75 miles an hour. My father, Charles Sr., retires from General Electric after 50 years and receives the golden handshake. At all hours of day or night, he was called out to help the big boss when he needed it and would not receive any reward afterwards. I remember this, and I keep that in the back of my mind. I informed him of the situation, that he must go in early in the morning. I would answer the phone for him, and he would receive his hot coffee. I would warm up the automobile, and he would buzz off to work. Upon retirement, he asked me to drive him over to the classic car shop, and there sat a bright, shiny 54 Corvette. She smiled at us. My father hands the lady cash and gives me the keys. He tells me tomorrow I will drive him to the Chicago Cubs game from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and to meet his old friend Ben Johnson, who owns Avon Electronics International. A new job will be offered upon his retirement that will make my father very happy. Before I know it, I am in the lovely, fashionable town of Nashville, Indiana. All kinds of shops, restaurants, and the Nashville Masonic Lodge. A call 2 days ago told me the York Rite Templars would be holding their yearly meeting there, and since I was recruited and chartered the Knights Templar Research Lodge, would I come to town and speak on the esoteric numbers 3 to 4. Now, most people do not realize what this is, but in alchemy it is called the axiom of Maria. The numbers of creation are 3 and 4, the masculine and the feminine, which equal the number 7. So anyway, out of the blue, the car phone rings. Hello, Charles. This is your father, Charles Sr. Thank God you have not wrecked Nellie, and you are walking into a trap at Nashville. 2 archons are waiting to destroy you and me as a 33rd Mason. Save Nellie. I hold my breath. My father has had the car wired, and satellites in the heavens, I find out, are watching me. Please don't do that, Charles. People are looking at you. I'm waving at the car above at the satellites. Please call your mother tomorrow and wish her September the 5th. Her birthday is a Virgo, and I have sent a lovely orange roses in your name. Goodbye, Charles. There is silence. The 2 archons that follow me around are keeping to the background. And by the way, their names are Jackson and Annie, and they have been with me for quite a while. I really prefer to call them Tweedledum and Tweedledee. They are handsome, black, and Annie has long red hair and surprisingly green eyes, a smile to die for, and if you get close enough to her professionally, she will see to that. They are killers from the get-go. I am reading all this to you off the notes, as you understand, and you hear me on these pages. Number 1, I am dyslexic, and number 2, I screw up words and numbers constantly. So it has been a long time. And my father, being a Disbarist, going back to the 3rd generation of Templars and Priory of Zion out of Arles, France. The 7 archons run this universe, and do not forget this, ladies and gentlemen, and are not nice entities. They have tried to recruit me and my father, and I do love long red hair and green eyes. Annie even let me hold her nickel-plated Navy Colt. I smiled and politely said, no thank you. That was 2 years ago, and boy, she's been ticked off at me ever since. I turn on my phone and make a note to my father saying, don't screw up the lecture. I hear it again. I will listen to you on my birthday. The hotel suite is nice. It's called the 5 Seasons. I walk down to town to the famous ice cream parlor shop for a massive dip of black walnut ice cream and go outside to take the nice traveling ride around town in a Jeep. And ladies and gentlemen, I highly recommend this. The Jeep is a nice ride. Or they call it the little train. I eat my handmade ice cream as a horse I hear come by going clip-clop, clip-clop. He snorts. I open my eyes as he quickly snatches the ice cream out of my hand. He is a large Belgian horse weighing about 2 tons, and he looks me in the eye. I look up into the eyes of an angel. She is wearing a lovely white dress and shawl draped over her shoulders, driving a white open carriage. To hell with the trolley ride. She smiles that Ed, that's the name of the horse, loves my ice cream and is very nice. I ask what you will take me to heaven when I die. I smile at her. She says, yes, I will, Charles, if you pay me $50. Get in. The carriage is leaving now. And I wonder, how does this woman know my name? I glare at Ed, climb in the carriage, and hand the white angel a $100 bill. and she keeps all of it. Linda sits sideways in the carriage. Old Ed trots downtown. I hear no voices or no birds, and I ask, "Am I dead, Linda?" And she says, "No, Charles, you're in a protective bubble." I think I am in love with this beautiful angel. Linda says she responds, "No, you are not. I can hear everything you say. Remember, your father told you about the trouble coming." Yes. There is an Archon war going on, and you're going to be in the center of it, whether you like it or not. The carriage stops. "Now get out," she commands. "We will protect you." I get out and turn around, and the carriage has disappeared. I reach for my Beretta Special, the same gun like James Bond uses, and I check it. I go into a beautiful tea shop with all types of Irish tea. My favorite is green Irish tea that looks like the ocean. The woman in there in a heavy Irish accent says, "Good day, Charles." I go to the old green store up the street. It is a 2-story Masonic lodge. It is actually there. And on the first floor, they now have a beautiful fudge shop. I ask for a rich, thick piece of maple fudge, and the owner says, "Good day, Charles," and hands me a slice. Next, I smell leather, well-finished leather. And I walk around the corner, and there is a leather shop with 14 different types of gun holsters on the wall. And this, ladies and gentlemen, I actually saw. I am filled out quickly and pull back Moroccan leather gun holsters. I thank the man and try one out, and he says, "For you, brother, you are a traveling man, there will be no charge." I shake his hand, receive business cards for my brothers back home in Fort Wayne, Indiana, who are Marines. I step outside, I look across the street and straight into the deadly faces of 2 Archons. They nod back and go into the bookstore. I check my new holster and my revolver. I cross the street like some old sheriff and follow them into the bookstore, smelling of fresh-made mint tea and musty old books. I am ready for hell to break loose as I step up at the nexus point I feel in my gut. Being born April 1st, it does not make me the fool that they think they do, or the term the Hoosier Hick. This term was actually promoted by a comedian named Red Skelton, a 33rd degree Masonic brother, and when he moved to California, he changed the name to the comedian of Clem Kadiddlehelper. I move around the corner and stare into the green eyes of Annie, reading a book on end times. "Charles, how nice to see you again after 2 years." And I hold my breath. Annie smiles and shakes her head as I reach for my holster. She whispers, "You expect to stop an Archon with that pea shooter, really?" And Annie lifts the side of her dress and reveals a Navy Colt 50 caliber. I hear her drop the voice as Jackson comes up behind me, and all at once I reach over and grab the wood cabinet and pull it down. Eye to eye, it goes over Annie and over the other Archon. I hit out the back door with my cup of tea yet and look into the face of the angel. "Where are you going from here without me?" Carla says. And I ask her as I get in the buggy, "Where are you from?" She tells me Angola, Indiana, over 100 years ago. I think about this. "Are you one of the angels?" "Yes." "Are you hungry?" "Yes." "I know just the place." And she leaves town with me in the carriage as the horse plods along. We slowly leave town and go up into the hills on a back road to a nice little place, and she gets out and has a box lunch for both of us. It consists of ham, cheese, baked bread, coleslaw, cherry pie, and fresh French champagne. I call her Angola, because that's where she's from. And she can call me anything she wants to. We eat. Ed stares at us, the horse. Angola, is Ed an angel? I asked jokingly. Angola says, oh, yes, he is. He was a Crusader knight and came back as a lovely big horse. Don't tell me he was a Knight Templar, just like you, Charles. And year after year, he fought the enemy and lost, and now he ends up as a horse. I see. And she says, never question God on how things work out. I put down my champagne glass, blink my eyes, and all at once, everywhere around me, I see small, tiny heads. Angola smiles. She said, Charles, this is Fairy Lake. They told me I could bring you here. You have a good heart, are very lonely, and are very shrewd in your sense of perception. I held tightly to Angola's hand. I want you to look at me, Angola. And she and I look around us, and I see all of these living little creatures over 100 years old come up to us and sit on our feet, around our neck, and on my sandwich. These lovely little creatures all sense that your openness, Charles, your starvation to be with other people, yet you are alone most of the time. The little creatures crawl up on my feet, my legs, as I said, and my Masonic cap. I swear I hear them all hum in unison, purring like a cat. What is that sound? I asked Angola. I feel it deep inside. Charles, she said, that is love, pure fairy love, and they recognize that you have it also. You are a Templar warrior, a priest, and you carry a gold crucifix, dagger, and gun. You love others and can kill or restore life. It is up to you. It is a compliment and a paradox, both at the same time. They were here on Earth, Charles, long before humans were planted on this planet. And at the time you were searching for this place called the Garden of Eden. Charles, who in God's name are you talking to? In a blink of an eye, as the fairy folk disappear, my father sneaks up behind me and looks me in the face. Hello, Father. I am with a young lady and fairy folk at the Mirror Lake, the Garden of Eden, with an angel. My father stops, listens, and there is silence. Son, have you been drinking again? No, Father. The dad just is telling you, I'm telling you the truth. And then stop blabbering right now. Shape up. The two archons are coming towards you and will be at your lecture tonight. I have a new Glock revolver on your bed stand and a white chocolate bar. Charles, will you please be serious tonight? Your Templar outfit is pressed, laid out with my gold travel sword, and it is sharp. Give a great lecture, the Templar commander I installed in office last year. And remember, Randy does not like people that screws around. You remember that and everything will go fine. There is silence. And then, by the way, Charles, get rid of that Angola creature and that ancient horse. This is pathetic. An angel, really? Goodbye, Charles, for now. Knights Templar, There and Now, Part 2. I wipe a tear out of Angola's eye, and I say to her, I love you. I am allowed to take a guest to the Templar dinner and lecture tonight. Will you come with me, Angola? And she says, yes, of course. Then I ask her right behind that, staring her in the face, will you marry me? She says, what? You cannot marry an angel, Charles. Besides, I don't have body parts, and she laughs. What if I talk to Mr. Big upstairs and can get you body parts? Is it a deal, Angela? You want to marry an angel, an old woman that's over 100 years old. Yes, I kiss her on the cheek, and she says, what does an angel wear to a formal Knights Templar dinner, Charles? Angel just smiled, drove me back to the Five Seasons Motel, a 5-story ancient tall building on the east side of Nashville, Indiana, and says she will be back to pick me up with Ed at 6 p.m. I swear to God, I saw some little fairies waving at me from the back of the carriage as Ed moved out of sight. I went in to take a swim in the large indoor pool, receive a body massage, and performed a Gnostic Mass, dressed in the Knights Templar outfit with a dozen Templars beside me in a green outfit. The dinner. I hear a horse whinny, and outside I step of the hotel, and there stands Ed with Angola all decked out in a lovely white gown. I climb up beside her and receive a magnetic kiss. Ed paws the ground and is ready to leave. Quickly, 2 men in black sit behind us in the carriage. I stare at them and Angola says, "Your father sent them, Charles." My phone lights up. It is from my father. I hear him say 2 things. "Play nice. This is a special night." The fall leaves come fluttering down around us. "I forgot to buy you a corsage." "It is the thought that counts," says Angola. A little elf hands me some minuscule white roses with a red one. He winks at me. I pin it on Angela's dress. "Really?" And she smiles. I say, "Are those 2 goons behind us going to be with us all night, Angela?" And she says, or Angola, "Not if I can help it." Ed moves out in a smooth, rheumatic style for an old horse and brings us up to a standstill in front of the Masonic Dinner and Dance Lodge. The 2 in the back disappear as I help Angela down, and she has beautiful shoes on. "I like to dance, Charles," and her friends in the carriage are gone. This is a formal, precise dance. As big band music is blaring in the background, the doors open with a 1930s type woman singing the song, and I know that voice. Inside, we are giving bubbly champagne and small crystal goblets. We are guided to a liquid tall chocolate fountain as we display large red strawberries dipping in rich chocolate liquid. A guide takes us off to the side near the main table. At our table, sitting by my meal ticket, it says prime rib steak, and for Angela, fresh vegetables and rice. We are served white wine and ice water. I sense trouble is near and ask for black coffee. I check the escape routes. Behind me are the restrooms, and a door is behind the dance band. The singer steps forward in the spotlights, points at us, and the band belts out the song Little Brown Jug. All at once, Angela gets up and decides we should be dancing. The blinding spotlight is in our face as I check my shoulder holster, and Angela pulls up her skirt to reveal a nickel-plated pearl 38. "Why, I should have realized, Angela, I am very impressed." And she says, "Are you impressed, Charles, with my leg or my gun?" I said, "Both." We dance around the room. I see a few faces I know, and then I see trouble. The 2 archons with black eyes are staring at us from across the room. "Can you use your gun?" I say to Angela. "Yes." "Women in Indiana can shoot, Charles. I belong to the NRA. "Of course you do, Angela." And the songs move on. I take a quick look at the escape route behind the dance band. Angela looks also. My steak is put in front of me. It is very raw. "Is something wrong?" the porter says. I take a look in the eyes of Andrew, the assistant. "Please forgive me. Sometimes I forget to speak with people." Angola reaches for her gun, and we get up slowly to leave. I wouldn't do that, Charles. You cannot kill an Archon. As we pass the bandstand, the singer steps forward. Long time no see, Charlie. Who's the kid with you? Roxy, this is Angola. Please tell Dad I need some white roses. She smiles. Sure, Charlie. First thing after the next song. What does illustrious mean? Angola says as my mother speaks to me. It stands for I am a new 33rd Mason, and I get to play with the big boys if I do everything right. And the sign with the flowers, my mother, 2 kids, Rick and Benji are at home. This is the reason my father wants to give her the orange roses. The big band plays one more song by Peggy Lee titled, Is This All There Is? This song, I asked Roxy to marry me, my first wife in my senior year of college. She was pregnant with Rick, and now Rick is in Black Ops, looking at Blackwater in the future, a job with the private largest military army in the world. He knows the Prince family from Kalamazoo, Michigan. We are now led into the grand ballroom with a massive crystal chandelier and a big G behind the master's chair. We stand by the altar with 12 lit candles and 12 small gold goblets. Angela looks me in the face and whispers, I thought women were not allowed in the ceremony room. Or are we the sacrifice? The tall, dark figure rises and comes down toward us. Now, Angola, this is going to be a friendly chat, the first Archon says. Sitting in chairs is the figures with sharp swords and dark red chapeau hats. As you can see, illustrated Masonic brother Charles here is dressed with a proper outfit from the ancient times. And we are going to have an exercise. Stand, brothers, draw your swords and salute. The brothers on the sides draw their glistening swords and salute. The candle light flames up. Return swords. And now, Brother Charles, a toast to the lady. 12 knights formally stand up, come down, pick up the cups of wine, take one drink, and is given to me and Angela. She says quietly, is this poison? No, drink, I say. In honor of the Black Madonna, a spotlight comes on by the altar, which a tall figure in the corner. We will all drink and place the golden goblets back on the table, 11 knights toast, plus Angela and me. And on the table, or Angola rather, is the nexus point. Symbolically, a symbol I wear on my jacket. What is that? I will tell you later if you like it. Yes, I will. And now, Brother Charles, the Archon says, you know the procedure. If I go down, aim for the door, Angela, they will not touch you, and bring my body back. And Angola nods. The light comes up, and standing in the middle of the room, I walk to the center in a large circle with a sideways X through the center. The numbers 314159 around the outside and 111122 in the center. The Red Book of Adam creation numbers is now been seen by us. I take off my Masonic Templar jacket with my medals, like a Russian general, my favorite Maltese cross, my Knights Templar sword is in my hand, and the rest is taken away. If I lose my head, the woman gets the Maltese cross, I say to the Archon. Yes, of course, at your request. She does, Father Desbarres. And the horse. Of course she can have the horse. I smile. I am handed the razor-sharp Templar sword. My opponent is tall, lean, and removes his red hat, draws the sword, comes to the center, takes off his coat, no medals. We salute, face each other. Commence, the Archon says. Angela bursts out, knock his block off, Charlie. I'm rooting for you. Remember, the prize is me. I smile, I look at her, the figure lunges at me. He is not good. I don't understand this. On the swing around, I take off his left hand. Angela yells, knock his block off. What are these things, Charlie? They are archons, Angela. They're not human. There is no blood. Focus. We circle each other again. He swipes at me. He goes down on one knee. I circle around and slice the head off. I walk back with my sword. I hand it back, put on my jacket. The body and head is removed. The archon blows out the candles one by one. The session is over.
All right, that was the end of Book 2, titled The Knights Templar Then and Now, which is an ongoing series called Theater After Midnight. Joining me in this series is a friend and brother of mine, Chuck Lauer, and myself, Rodney McGilvery, as your host. This has been Ancient Mysteries Revisited on Welt 95.7 FM in Fort Wayne, Indiana, coming to you every Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and streaming live at www.acpl.info/Welt. And we are the Deprogramming Program.